The Oslo Philharmonic, Oslo-Filharmonien, is a Norwegian symphony orchestra based in Oslo, Norway. The orchestra was founded in 1919 and has since 1977 had its home in the Oslo Concert Hall. The orchestra consists of 69 musicians in the string section, 16 in the woodwinds, 15 in brass, 5 in percussionists, 1 harpist, and 1 pianist. The orchestra gives an average of 60 to 70 symphonic concerts annually, the majority of which are broadcast nationally on the radio. The orchestra also performs chamber concerts frequently throughout the year. The Oslo Philharmonic Orchestra's roots go back to 1879, when Edvard Grieg and Johan Svensson founded the Christiania Musikerforening, Christiania Musical Association, as a successor of the Philharmonic Society, Det Philharmoniske Selskab, 1847. The orchestra was later conducted by Ole Olsen, Johan Selmer, Ivar Holter, and Otto Winterhjelm. Under Holter, the orchestra was merged with the Christiania Theatre Orchestra, which was on the verge of reductions. Holter suggested the founding of a city orchestra which could play at municipal festivities, concerts, and in the theatre, and as a result of this, the orchestra gained municipal support from 1889. In 1899, the Nationaltheatret, which was to present both theatre and opera, was opened. Here the orchestra expanded to 44 musicians, and it was conducted by Johan Halvorsen. The orchestra served the Nationaltheatret in 2 roles, providing music for the new theatre, and symphony concerts for the Music Society. During the First World War, the desire for symphonic music grew, along with inflation, leading to a dispute between the orchestra and the Nationaltheatret and a temporary collapse of the Musikerforening's concerts. Thus, in 1919, the orchestra was reformed as the Philharmoniske Selskabsorkester, Orchestra of the Philharmonic Company, by private shareholders and initiative. The first season was shared by 3 conductors, Johan Halvorsen, George Schneevoigt, and Ignaz Neumark. Philharmoniske Selskabsorkester's first concert took place in Lågen, Storsal, on September 27, 1919, with 59 musicians on stage and with George Schneevoigt as conductor. On the repertoire was Richard Nordraak's Job, 6 Elsker det Landet, Johan Svensson's Fest Polonaise, Christian Sinding's Symphony No. 1, Edvard Grieg's Piano Concerto in A minor, and finally Landgenning, with the singer Erik Olby as baritone soloist. Among the guest musicians of this first season were the conductor Arthur Nykiesch, the pianists Eugen Dalbert, Edwin Fischer, Wilhelm Kampf, Ignaz Friedman, and Artur Schnabel, and the violinists Bronislav Huberman and Karl Flesch. Between September 1919 and May 1920, the orchestra gave 135 public concerts, most of them sold out. The next decades featured various economic problems, which led to the resignation of 15 musicians in one season. In spite of this, the orchestra continued to attract notable musicians and conductors, such as Richard Bergen, who later became concertmaster for Serge Koussevitzky in Boston, Max Rostal, Ernst Glaser, Robert Sodens, for whom Sergei Prokofiev's second violin concerto was written, and others who were driven out of Germany by the Nazi regime, Igor Stravinsky, Fritz Busch, Eric Kleiber, and Bruno Walter. The first Norwegian radio broadcast started in April 1923, and shortly after, the first radio concert with the Oslo Philharmonic Orchestra. From 1925, there was a contract between the orchestra and the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation, NRK, ensuring weekly live broadcast concerts. This contract with NRK saved the orchestra from bankruptcy in the 1930s. Isami Dobrowan joined the orchestra in 1927. When he left in 1931, the position of chief conductor was divided between 2 Norwegians, Odd Gruner Hage and Olav Kieland. After 1933, Kieland became sole chief conductor until 1945. In 1953, Oslo hosted the ISCM Festival, which brought further international contacts and the awareness of new repertoire, which many of the Scandinavian countries had been deprived of during the years of World War I and World War II. The first performance of the Oslo Philharmonic outside Scandinavia took place in 1962. Since then, the orchestra has much international acclaim. In 1979, the orchestra formally changed its name to Oslo Philharmonic Orchestra. In 1996, an act of the Norwegian Parliament made the orchestra an independent foundation. Although the orchestra has maintained high standards of quality since its inception and under various renowned musical directors, many consider that it saw its largest leap forward during the tenure of Maris Jansons from 1979 to 2002. During this time, the orchestra recorded readings of Tchaikovsky's symphonies and went on international tours. The Oslo Philharmonic won international acclaim with its Tchaikovsky cycle and a very successful series of recordings for EMI. In 2000, the orchestra completed a cycle of Bartók for Simax. Other awards won by the Oslo Philharmonic include Grand Prix du Disque, Diapason d'Or, and the German Classical Music Award. Subsequent music directors have been André Previn, 2002 to 2006, and Jukka-Pekka Sarast, 2006 to 2013. Sarast now has the title of Aristdirigent, Conductor Laureate, with the orchestra. In February 2011, the orchestra announced the appointment of Petrenko as its next chief conductor, as of the 2013 to 2014 season, with an initial contract of 4 years. In November 2015, the orchestra announced the extension of Petrenko's contract through 2020. Petrenko concluded his chief conductorship of the orchestra at the close of the 2019 to 2020 season, with the season truncated by the COVID-19 pandemic. In May 2018, Klaus Michaela first guest conducted the orchestra. On the basis of this appearance, in October 2018, the orchestra announced the appointment of Michaela as its next chief conductor, effective with the 2020 to 2021 season, with an initial contract of 3 seasons. In May 2020, the orchestra announced an extension of Michaela's initial contract with the orchestra for an additional 4 seasons, unusual in its timing before the official start of his tenure as chief conductor of the orchestra. Johan Halvorsen, 1919 to 1920. Ignaz Neumark, 1919 to 1921. George Schneevoigt, 1919 to 1921. Jose Ivanschutz, 1921 to 1927. Isahi Dobrowen, 1927 to 1931. Og Gruner Hagi, 1931 to 1933. Olav Kieland, 1931 to 1945. Og Gruner Hagi, 1945 to 1962. Herbert Blomstedt, 1962 to 1968. Øyvind Fjeldstad, 1962 to 1969. Miltiades Kariades, 1969 to 1975. Paco Camus, 1975 to 1979. Maris Chansons, 1979 to 2002. André Previn, 2002 to 2006. Jukka-Pekka Sarast, 2006 to 2013. Vasily Petrenko, 2013 to 2020. Klaus Michaela, designate, effective September 2020.